To me, enough is enough. They just wanna hurt us, bring us down, bring us down. Enough is enough. We won't let them hurt us, bring us down, bring us
Is the pro theme going?
Yeah, I was like surprised. I didn't think
So I've
Hey guys, welcome back to Queen of the Indies Corner with another episode of Under the Ropes. I'm your host as always, the Queen of the Indies, Tiffany. And today, a little over the pond, as I like to say. So we got Rev Pro owner, Andy Quildan. How are you?
I'm doing very good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited that you're on here. Like, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
No problem. I appreciate the opportunity to spread the good words always.
Yes. So I want to make sure. Let me know in the chat if the audio is good because it's like I see. Hold on one. I want to make sure. Okay, I think it's good. Let me know in the chat. It looks okay. So let's see. We already got people into the chat. So I'm going to read this off. If the audio is not good, let me know. So we got Shaz in the chat. He says, good morning, Tiffany. Good afternoon, Andy. So excited for this. Steve asks in the chat, is there going to be a meet and greet announced for Wembley?
So we're working on something. So it's a tough one because of the just the logistics within the building. So we're trying to look for a location outside, but very close to Wembley, basically in order to enable our talent basically to be able to make money from the merchandise, just because of the restrictions you get when you run an arena, and it kind of negates the benefit of doing it for the talent, because it's, like I say, it's very restrictive. You hear the stories about arenas all the time. So it's just one of those things, that we have to navigate. Now we're trying to be a little bit bigger, but we hope so. And if we can't do it, it's not going to be for want of trying. So we're doing everything we can. So please bear with us, and obviously understand that this was one of the last things we've tried to organise, because the immediate focus is obviously on our week-to-week business of obviously running the events, and then obviously all the stuff we have to do and complete for a show of this size. And it's just little old me working very, very hard trying to get everything done. So watch this space. We'll do our best.
Love that. I see a bunch of people in the chat. I appreciate all you guys coming in here. So Scarlett's in the chat, says hello. Thank you guys for letting me know that the audio is great too. Just let me know. George is in the chat. He goes, Andy. Let's see. So he said, Andy, my goat. Drew says, hello. Can't wait for next week. Jimmy's in the chat. He goes, hello. Scarlett says, love the announcement for the women's scramble, especially Kaylee Ray being involved. And then Owen says, hi, Andy. I know you mentioned a bonus match on the wrap up. Will there be a main card or the pre-show?
So the plan is for it to be a pre-show, but it really is a part of the main card. But the idea is obviously what we want to do, this is providing everything goes well with all the technical gremlins on the day. Um, but the plan will be to stream that match for free on YouTube and then go straight in, just continue on with the show. But essentially, the rest of the show will continue on RevProOnDemand.com and my AEW. So that is the plan with the extra match, which we're looking to announce in the coming days.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Oh man, chat is so hot. I feel like I'm never gonna get to myself. My friend Jimmy said that because he went last year, and I'm mad at him because he didn't put me in his bag and take me. Like that's just rude. So I told Jimmy that we have to plan for next year to come. So because I need to save to come. So, but I might stay. Like I don't know. You have a lot of great roster, and I might just stay. Like, so, but all right, so let me start, and I'll get to like more stuff into the chat. And again, like I said, I'm so honored that you're on this podcast. You know, when I announced it, the messages, the shares, it was insane. Wrestlers were messaging me, fans were messaging me. They were like, this is insane. So for the people that aren't following Rev Pro, you know, and not familiar with you, give us a little bit of background about you and a little bit of the background of RevPro.
Yeah, I'll try and do the cliff notes, the quick version of the story, which for anyone who knows me knows it's quite difficult for me to tell quick stories. So I'm a storyteller by trade, you know.
Yeah.
But look, I've been a fan of professional wrestling my entire life since I was 4 years old. Just captivated by this crazy sport and art form, and just it's always just fascinated me. Every single aspect of it has fascinated me. You know, the bright lights, the big characters, the stories, the physicality of the matches. You know, just everything about it has just from that age of 4, it just gripped me, boom, and it never let hold of me, let it go of me, sorry. And that's literally been it. It's been a lifelong obsession, I would say. And then for myself, again, I started out watching shows on the UK scene. I became a referee. I went from being a referee to a booker, as there's a lot of referees wind up doing that crossover. And then I was refereeing and booking at the same time for a promotion called IPW UK, whilst refereeing for other promotions around the country. And then I also started ring announcing as well, dabbled in commentary. And literally every single aspect of the running of the events. And I went from the booking of the shows to the promoting of the shows and learning that aspect of the game. I ran a lot of kind of high level independent wrestling shows. You know, some of the big matches, you had like Bryan Danielson versus Pac. You know, we had lots of, you know, the places where you see a lot of these guys platformed in their early days. A lot of those shows happened with myself. And you know, wrestlers like El Generico, the Young Bucks, Ricochet, you know, all these great names, and so many fantastic names over the years have kind of wrestled on my shows. And then in 2012, I wanted to take the handcuffs off of kind of essentially playing in someone else's sandbox, and created Revolution Pro Wrestling in August of 2012, which is where obviously we're fast approaching our 14-year anniversary, which is the reason why we're here today.
Yeah.
Through Revolution Pro Wrestling, you know, we coined the phrase pro wrestling at its best, and we try to be best in class at everything we do. And we try to produce a highest level professional wrestling. We try to bring through young, up and coming talent consistently to create that conveyor belt of talent that keeps coming through. We believe very strongly in partnerships within wrestling. We partner with CMOL in Mexico, New Japan Pro Wrestling. We use a lot of talents from AEW as well. We try not to to shut ourselves off from working with anyone, as long as they want to do good business. We formed a lot of good alliances with European promotions as well. The end of this September, we're going to be in Paris, France, alongside APC, and we very much believe in just spreading the good word of professional wrestling, basically. And I guess that's kind of it. That's I guess a 20 plus year story in a couple condensed into a couple of minutes.
No, I love it. It's great, you know. So, and again, like I said, I'm hoping with this podcast that we get some more fans to get onto, you know, Rev Pro if they're not already on the Rev Pro, you know, scene. So, with that being said, you know, obviously, like I've been watching the product since earlier this year, thanks to Joe Lando. That's my boy. So, but for a fan that's like never watched Rev Pro, what is probably the best match you would recommend for them to watch to become an instant fan?
That's a tough question because we've had a lot of moments over the years, and I would say, for example, I could say Michael Oku and Will Ospreay would be one that immediately jumps out
Yeah.
from High Stakes 2024, I believe.
Hmm.
Yeah, High Stakes 2024. I think that would probably be a good one, as that was a culmination of a story, a long story that we told. But look, more recently, I'd say the series between Michael Oku and Leon Slater is starting at Global Wars, through to last year's anniversary show, through to Summer Sizzler in Bradford. That's a great series to watch. Of course, Mercedes Monet versus Kanji to get a great introduction to what Kanji's all about. And as well to see what Mercedes Monet is all about on the independent scene as well. Um, they're probably some of the ones that I would definitely recommend. But to be honest with you, I genuinely believe, and you'll hear me parroting on about consistency.
Hmm.
I don't think that there's ever been an independent wrestling promotion that's been doing it with the consistency that we've been doing it week in, week out for such a long time now. And we try to make our shows as accessible as possible for anyone who's tipping in for the first time. So you can check out our YouTube channel, and on our YouTube channel, you can see RevPro recaps, which tells you about what happened on that show in about 5 to 10 minutes. You just get a quick rundown of everything that happened on the show. Before all our shows, we have like almost like a previously on Rev Pro, like you're watching a episodic drama on the Netflix. Um, and that kind of gives you, it points you in the direction of things which are happening after every show. We've got our backstage reactions as well.
Hmm.
And so basically, I, we're trying to create a product which you can pick up at any point and get something out of. And then our hope is you want to kind of go back and go through our
Yeah.
archives, which are all available on our service, RevPro on Demand, and and we know you can get deeper meaning from the everything that we do. We believe in excellence in terms of in-ring action, but also the storytelling. And I think that so often a misconception of RevPro, because we never used to be very good at kind of making those stories available to the world outside those that attended our shows.
Yeah.
And I think a big misconception about RevPro was we were all about in-ring action only. We were all about, bell to bell action, and we still are absolutely all about bell to bell action. But there's so much more to it. There's so many different facets of it because that's what wrestling is. And the more you kind of get into it, the more you can appreciate and enjoy. And the big example I'll give is, for example, this at our anniversary show, our feature contest is a match between Michael Oku and Connor Mills for the undisputed British Heavyweight Championship. And that match is something that started, the story in Rev Pro started in 2020,
Hmm.
right? Just before the pandemic. And it's coming to a head 6 years later. And that's an example of that storytelling which has been told over that long course of
Hmm.
time. Now, there was one of the fans, and we love seeing content made by our fans as well, because it shows that they're invested in the product. It shows there's engagement, and it shows that they're following what we're doing. And there was a fantastic music video put to Oasis's "Don't Look Back in Anger," which we posted on our Twitter this weekend. Um, and that video, you watch it and you're like, wow, this is a deep rivalry. It doesn't even scratch the surface of that rivalry between Connor Mills and Michael Oku. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about it. So, like I say, just don't feel like, if you're wanting to sample Rev Pro for the first time, don't feel like you kind of have to pick a marquee show, because we try to deliver each and every single show. So right now, what I'd advise is obviously with a Rev Pro on demand service, you've got full access to a back catalogue. So right now, I'd say get your subscriptions now, basically,
Yeah.
because if you get your subscription now, it will include the anniversary show,
Mhm.
and we have shows pretty much every weekend, and we have shows every weekend following the anniversary show as well. Um, but it will include the anniversary show, but you'll get an opportunity to delve into the back catalogue a little bit, and it'll get you up to speed very, very quickly.
Mhm.
What I'd say as well is a lot of the older shows as well. We had a lot of criticism about our production over the years. Again, being a small independent wrestling promotion, but so if you pick something from one of the early years, just know that the production does improve quite significantly as we move towards modern day Revolution Pro Wrestling, because obviously that's another part of this business. We've got no financial backer, no sponsors, no TV. It's kind of, we live and die based on our on demand subscriptions and based on our ticket sales. And so, everything we do, we have to do in a strategic way, in a sustainable way. So that means we have to own our own equipment when it comes to video cameras and the editing software, the audio software, etc. So it's a process, and those people that have been with us for a long time, they understand
Mhm.
the trials and tribulations of that process. But we are getting there. We still have our technical gremlins along the way, but we are getting there slowly but surely.
It's a lot. I mean, even me, like being at like so many multiple shows and through all the years that I've been supporting independent wrestling and being part of like even like backstage stuff and seeing of everything that goes through like putting these shows together. Like, thank you for what you do. Like I can definitely say that because I know the stress of everything, and especially that you're doing weekly shows. It's crazy. So kudos to you. Like I will always give props to like anybody that comes on here, and does everything that they do. So, but you're a man of many talents because you're doing commentary for Rev Pro too. So like it's got to be a little stressful that like if God forbid anything goes wrong and then you're buying the booth and like it's got to be a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just juggling, constantly juggling. I always say like I'm kind of spinning plates,
Yeah.
and like it's sad because sometimes you can't put you can't put as much into because if you had your own way, you want everything to be perfect,
Yeah.
and you'd spend all your time on each specific job. But unfortunately, because we've got these plates spinning, I might have got this one spinning, and rather than getting it going real fast, I have to move to the next one very
Yeah.
quickly. So you are constantly juggling,
Yeah.
and I am able to kind of multitask in terms of running the show, commentating, making changes to things, signaling to the sound guys, occasionally watching an Arsenal match at the same time. I'm kind of very good at this multitasking thing. I think like multi screens are kind of that's kind of my brain. I've got so much different stuff going on
Yeah.
all at once. But yeah, it's just. But I just kind of we just do what we have to do to make stuff happen. Like I've learned a long time ago that you can't just wait and let stuff happen. You have to get up and go and make stuff happen, because if you don't, no one else will. And you have to take accountability, you have to take responsibility, and you just make stuff happen. And that's what we've been doing for 14 years, and we've been getting braver and braver as the years go on. And I guess that experience gives you that little bit of bravery.
Yeah. Wow. Let me know in the chat, or if you're listening to this later, leave me some love, some comments. Let me know what was the match that, got you involved on Rev Pro. I mean, me, I'm still very new to Rev Pro, even though it's like I've known of Rev Pro, but like I just signed up this year, and it was Jay Joshua versus Joe Lando at the 16 carat at WXW that got me so on board. And then when Joe came onto this podcast, it's clipped and it's posted on my personal Twitter of me and Joe talking about it. And Joe had said, he was like, they just let us cook. Like, you just let them cook. It was like cruiserweight versus heavyweight champion. Go for it. And they cooked. And that was the match that I was like, I'm subbing right now to Rev Pro, because this is obviously like I have to wear my I glitified it. I got my rhinestones for the Say Less with Jay Joshua. But I've been loving Rev Pro so much that, again, like I said, we had to do this podcast and I had to spread the love. Such a big pay-per-view that we got. I'm gonna call it pay-per-view pretty much, like coming on the next week. So you excited?
I mean, I'm excited, nervous, scared, just all the emotions right now ahead of it. And yeah, and it's like, yeah, you call it a pay per view. I feel like that's, on
Yeah.
a week to week basis, I feel like that's the level our shows are judged on anyway,
Yeah.
which I kind of take as a compliment.
Yeah.
It's very hard,
Mhm.
but yeah, like it's one of those things whereby yeah, we try to deliver in each and every way, and I think this one's very unique in the sense of there's been so much build to everything, and it's been this show. It's got the potential to be the biggest show in Rev Pro history. We're kind of tracking that way, but I don't want to get too cocky yet and count the chickens before they've hatched. It looks like we're going to do it, but
Yeah.
we can't rest on our laurels. We've got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
And I tell you what would be really nice if we could get to this weekend and say we've done it. We're going to we've hit our attendance record. Now let's push. This is a push goal. Now let's get even further. Let's see how big we can make this thing. So
Yeah.
so hopefully people listening will just act and get their tickets and put my heart at ease a little bit. But yeah, and it's been something which is it was looming in the very far distance, and it's
Right.
almost like it's crept closer and closer and closer, and now we're staring right at it. And it's honestly, it's amazing how quickly it's come along. But when from the moment we announced it, I think we announced it in October last year, something like that,
Mhm.
maybe September. So it was announced a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that's been in everyone's minds since that point.
Yeah.
And just the way it's crept up on us is insane. But like I say, it's really given us a focus, something to work towards. And now we're just a few days out, so it's just an exciting time.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I can't wait. I'm sitting on the couch. I got my popcorn. If anybody can figure out how I can teleport to like UK so I can, be there, let me know. Slide in my DMs because I wish I was there. So, but I'll be live tweeting as well. But let me give some love in this chat. Oh God, it just like blew up. All right, so I'm sorry. I'm trying to get to you guys. So Car Love says, got my ticket for the show. Can't wait to see Kanji win. George says, I cannot wait for Cowboy Way versus FTR. Me too. Me too. So and he says, thank you for booking Corey Zero for Wembley. Raven says, reason for not having a third women's match on the show are at least currently announced.
Um, just a case of the number of matches on the show. So we'd love to have more matches on the show, of course, but we've got a certain amount of time we have to fill. So when you look at the card itself, what we try to do is have essentially championship and contender matches for your division. So obviously the women's division, we've got our undisputed British Women's Championship match between Kanji and Alexis Falcon, and then we've got our scramble match for the number one contendership to the undisputed British Women's Championship. And we kind of, again, we've kind of wanted to do a scramble match because we want to highlight as many different women in our division as possible. So there's a real great mix of talent in there. And then along with that, we then got obviously the heavyweight championship, along with the number one contenders match for the heavyweight championship, which is a gauntlet match. Again, with that same mindset of trying to get as many different bodies on the show as possible, just reward the hard work which has been done throughout the years. So that takes up 4 spaces already. Then you've got the Cruiserweight Championship, the Tag Team Championship, which takes up 6 matches.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the stories that we've been telling across the year. And look, when I'm sure we're going to do a rundown of the cards, so I don't want to just look like I'm just using this as an opportunity to be a cheap shill. But you look at the rest of the matches on the cards, and everything has got that build that we've been working towards. So of course, Leon Slater and Liam Slater in the story of the Slater Dojo is there for everyone to see. Zack Sabre Jr. and Jay Joshua, to me, is again, I don't want to just highlight all the card, but Jay Joshua and Jay Joshua and Zack Sabre Jr. That's an important one, because Zack Sabre Jr. is someone who he was on the very first ever Revolution Pro Wrestling show. He's someone who really, if I'd say what personifies Revolution Pro Wrestling, it'd be a wrestler like Zack Sabre Jr. And he is someone who, appreciates what we do and is, and wants to give back. He wants to come back. He's gone on record as saying he will always come back to Revolution Pro Wrestling. But very, very much like, before Will Ospreay joined AEW, he made a point of always coming back to Revolution Pro Wrestling. He made a point of, making sure he got that last match in on the independents before he went to AEW. He made sure he got that in with Revolution Pro Wrestling. And Zack Sabre Jr. is just the same. Always make sure he comes back. And to me, Zack Sabre Jr. is someone who really is like, almost like the foundations of Revolution Pro Wrestling. He created the foundation, but now Jay Joshua is on top of that foundation and looking to take it to another level, right? And it's almost like you've got that two former champions, one a former four-time champion who's synonymous with that undisputed British Heavyweight Championship, and you've got Jay Joshua, who's the man who, look, he held the championship for a large portion of this year, absolutely deserves to be in this prominent position on this card and in this role. And, and he wants to emulate Zack Sabre Jr.'s success. He wants to be able to go overseas and make a name for himself. And we've and look, we've seen how stylistically Jay Joshua matches up with, for example, Tomohiro Ishii from last year's anniversary weekender. Just what a fantastic match, and every single time he delivers. Yeah. So absolutely there on merit. And of course, we kind of wound up with an extra match in the heavyweight division. Because of obviously the unfortunate injury to Ethan Allen. And at this time, obviously, got to send my best wishes to Ethan Allen. The character that he has displayed over the last few weeks has been something else, But obviously, as a result, we gave Luke Jacobs the option about what he wanted to do in this situation. And he said, I'm not going to stand next to anyone to face FTR other than Ethan Allen. That's admirable as well. But Luke Jacobs, also a former undisputed British heavyweight champion. He headlined that 12-year anniversary show at the Copper Box, which to me is probably one of the proudest moments, because, the first year at the Copper Box where we set our attendance record was headlined by Will Ospreay versus Shingo. And the second year, it was headlined by Luke Jacobs and Michael Oku, an all-British, all-Revolution Pro Wrestling main event. And obviously with there being less people at Wembley Stadium the following day as well, we were only about, I think it was something like, I don't know, we were just under 4,000 tickets. The record was 4,072. So we were under 100 tickets off of that attendance record. But I would say that was a more impressive feat than the first year's attendance. And we did that with an all-British card, and Luke Jacobs was a very big part of that build. So it was so important for me to kind of make sure that Luke Jacobs was very much featured on this event as well. So look, in terms of the matches, it's like, of course we want to get more matches on, of course we want to get more people on, but the reality of the situation is there are only so many spots, unless you want the show to go all night long. We do, and I wouldn't mind, but we have a set time for the show, and we also have very, very big fines for every 15 minutes the show goes over time as well. So we have to run to time. But yeah, and it's almost heartbreaking that you can't get everyone on the show, but we want to make sure that every match gets the time it deserves. We want to make sure that there's real stories being told in the build up to absolutely everything. And I think perhaps the most important thing of all, because we're looking at this show, we obviously look, it's clearly a destination, right? It's clearly something that we're all looking forward to, but rather than it being a final destination, sorry to steal a catchphrase from Michael Oku, rather than use it as a final destination, we want it to just be a stop on our journey, because the important thing is, we want to come out of this show with a very clear picture of what's next for Revolution Pro Wrestling. And we better have a clear picture, because what's next is we've got a show back in London 8 days later, Portchester Hall, and we go again. And then we've got a show the week after that, and the week after that. And then the week after that, we're in Paris.
Do you sleep? So
I'm trying to carve a little opening around Christmas, I think.
Oh my god! So I think the fans, because I get it and I see what they're saying, but like it's a lot when you're watching like wrestling all day. Like I've done it, but we've had it here in the States years ago. that there was like a 24-hour stream. And it was cool because I think like every couple of hours there was a new promotion filling into the slots. It was like the fight forever or something like that. So I think the fans, that's what they want. Like, is this something that maybe could happen in the future?
Well, maybe in the future, who knows? But look, there's going to be a lot of wrestling that weekend, and that's one of the coolest things about this weekend, because obviously we all know the big event at the end of the weekend is All In at Wembley Stadium. And I make no secret about the fact that, look, we're trying to be the show of the weekend. We want to be the show that everyone's talking about going in and coming out of it. We want to create, it's a real opportunity for us to get new eyeballs on the product, to get people excited, to get people talking. And I want people at Wembley Stadium. So, the job isn't finished at Wembley Arena. I want the fans who are attending our show, the anniversary show at Wembley Arena, to be telling the fans next to them at Wembley Stadium, hey, you missed out on a great show last night. You need to check it out. We want to get word of mouth going. We always say we're one fan at a time, and we genuinely mean it. So it's, but there's, like I say, there's going to be a lot of wrestling. I don't want to, I champion professional wrestling, and I champion the spirit of professional wrestling, the spirit of independent professional wrestling. I see, look, obviously, there's healthy competition. People only have so much money, and of course we want them to spend it with us, right? However, it's great because obviously there's many different flavors of ice cream, right? And what we try to do in Rev Pro, we try to give you as many different flavors as we can. We want a buffet of styles of professional wrestling, no doubt about it. But across the weekend, there's so much stuff going on. There's shows. You've got like Riot Cabaret, you've got Pro Wrestling Eve. I'm going to get in trouble for missing someone out now, but like you've got an all women's card in Pro Wrestling Eve. You've got Pro Wrestling Ceasefire on the Thursday night. You've got Progress Wrestling on the Monday. There's so much stuff going on. I've probably missed some, but there's also Q&As going on. Jeff Jarrett's doing some Q&As. There's Sweet Chin Disco where Mercedes Moné is DJing. AEW have got all their signings going on. So there's just so much stuff going on, across that weekend. There's so much wrestling for all wrestling fans. And I think the key is we don't want anyone to outstay their welcome in terms of doing, just leaving the fans exhausted for the rest. We just, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure we are planning an absolutely epic show. So, I probably should, I feel like sometimes on those big shows of ours, you leave it and you're emotionally and physically exhausted because of the roller coaster that you've been taken on. It's a ride.
I got you. So this is a two-part question, and then again, I'm going to read some stuff into the chat. Is the possibility Rev Pro comes my way? Number one. You gotta come this way.
We did it a few years at WrestleMania. And we had great success. And then so it was we did Orlando, New Orleans, and New York. So we did those three shows around WrestleMania weekend. And then it's funny because then without going into too much of a history of professional wrestling in the UK, but I feel like when we were going into the pandemic, a lot of promotions were going into a downturn. In terms of we'd had this glorious boom period, and it's interesting because the terms are thrown around all the time about you think about 2015, 2016 British wrestling. Everyone was talking about it. We put a show on at York Hall, boom, we sell. I'm not saying we sold out every single show. We sold out a lot of those shows, but we'd put a show on sale, and we would sell 500 tickets in the first 20 minutes of the mailing list pre-sale. Right, those days are long gone. Right, I wish they weren't. Now people leave us waiting till the last, and we have that big uptake in the last week or so, which is what we're hoping for next week. But yeah, I forget the point I was making. So we were going into a bit of a downturn. in terms of NXT UK was happening, it had taken a lot of talent. The independence. So again, look, AEW is absolutely fantastic, a fantastic thing. But obviously, when AEW came along, what it did was it created this a rush for independent talent between both WWE and AEW. So it meant a lot of the top independent talent was now contracted to those places. And AEW is fantastic. AEW is very great with letting us use their talent, letting promotions around the world use their talent. But there is also a change as well, because in the sense of with Ring of Honor as an example, when Ring of Honor were operational under Sinclair, like talent was allowed to work independent outside of North America. So that meant that there was a lot more availability for independent talent, whereas obviously in AEW, talent can work anywhere as long as it gets cleared by the office. Um, so, um, so again, it makes it a lot harder to get those independent talents to kind of build your cards around, and that's what we may have been guilty of doing in the past, building our cards around international names, international talents. New Japan's gone through a phase at the moment where obviously they're rebuilding right now, but it wasn't, people had got used to seeing New Japan talent regularly in the UK. And a lot of those top guys, were no longer around. And when we came, so that was kind of one of those things as well. And my mindset was we need to start focusing on our roster, our talent. Of course, I didn't have the privilege of being allowed to use NXT UK talent. So, and I just wanted to make sure we built that solid foundation. And the reason we didn't go to America or didn't plan to go to America in 2020, which is lucky now, because it probably would have killed me financially with the, 'cause obviously that didn't wind up happening because of the COVID, right? But my focus was, we're going to keep the focus domestically on the UK, and we're going to work on our talent, our venues in the UK. We're going to try and build up consistency. We can't lose focus of our core business. And we did that. Obviously, the WrestleMania weekend didn't happen. I don't think anyone really went out the following year. Maybe it did happen, didn't it? But it wasn't on the same scale the following year. Because I remember there was social. I'm sure there was social distancing at the actual WrestleMania. But certainly WWE weren't back in front of full crowds yet. That was one of the first shows in front of a crowd. But yeah, and then we just never really got back into that as a focus point. We kind of started looking around Europe a bit more, the accessibility, because obviously, 1 hour, 2 hour flight. Often those Euro shows are a lot easier for me to get to than our shows in Sheffield, or definitely even our show in Morecambe, so yeah, and it's one of those things where I certainly think we should look back towards the States in the future, and maybe it is something that's coming up in the horizon. But there was a bit of a so there was a bit of justification there as to why we kind of stopped.
Yeah.
But obviously I feel like we're in a such a good space now,
Yeah.
in terms of that development of talent, in terms of that conveyor belt, in terms of there being talent at the top right now, and talent bubbling underneath ready to go, and then talent bubbling underneath that, and even young talent in our training school bubbling underneath that. So I feel like we're in such a good space right now in terms of that talent development, that yes, that's one of those times when that plate is spinning now. So now we can move on and start spinning another plate.
Yeah. I love the fact that it's like, okay, yes, we lose a lot of the talent to the big screen, the TV and everything, but every day, right, we're getting new talent and everything. So the second part of that question, and actually I was talking about this with one of my friends, and I feel like we need to nail this because of the fact that I live here in the States and you're over there. So, can you talk a little bit about the difference between, and I've talked about this even with Jay Joshua when he was on this podcast, of the difference between the UK scene up against the United States wrestling scene?
Don't hate me. The talent in the UK is head and tails above. I'm sorry.
They have good stuff here. I love everybody over there too. There's a lot of great stuff here that I would love over there.
so yes, you have, there is great stuff, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
right? But I'm talking from a pure depth
Mhm.
perspective. The talent here is just like, honestly, like, and again, I look, it's my job to promote my
Of
product,
course.
right?
Yes.
But you have to remember, I come from a time when we used to run shows and we'd bring in someone from the States, and they would be the best person
Mhm.
on the show,
Mhm.
right? I look at, for example, our anniversary show last year. We had Uemura on our anniversary show, and in the past, if we brought a talent in from New Japan Pro Wrestling who's on that level, we all saw his, the G1 finals this weekend, and what a fantastic different style of professional wrestling match that was. But again, in the past, he would be head and tails the best guy on the show, but that wasn't the case last year.
Mm.
And I think that, I don't even think people were talking about his matches
Mm.
at the end of a weekend. That would never have been the case before, right? The depth in talent right now in the UK is out of this world. And like, literally up and down the card. And you can look at young wrestlers like a 19-year-old Leon Cage.
Mhm.
You can look at 21-year-old Cameron Kai, who just went toe to toe with Bandido this
Oh,
past weekend.
so good.
But then you look at wrestlers like, look at Leon Slater.
Yeah.
Look at how Leon Slater looked when he was presented in WWE,
Mhm.
right? The most exciting, like, WWE have an open challenge for their show that they did in Wembley Arena.
Mhm.
They've got the roster of the most talented wrestlers. They've got their pick of any of them. And what do? They select Leon Slater to fill that role, right? And not just in a way which is like, oh, it's a local enhancement guy. It's like, this is the guy, you know, when they're doing John Cena's retirement show and they want to highlight the future of professional wrestling, Leon Slater's there, right? So what I'm saying is, our guys right now, and again, look, look, Michael Oku, Luke Jacobs, right? Jay Joshua, Connor Mills, right? Kanji, Rio, Emerson James. Think about these world beaters that we've got on our roster, right? And it's just it's just absolute. Just for me, like I say, like the levels are so high, and I've not even mentioned Joe Lando, and he's the
Yeah.
one that got you involved in the first place, right? So, but like, just think about the levels, right? And genuinely, so that's my big thing. I think you'd be surprised about the level of talent that we
Yeah.
have and how young that talent is. And just even every aspect of their game is tightening up. So I always say, so with Rev Pro, we've made a big point of doing our backstage comments after every show. And go back and watch the first set of backstage comments that we did,
Mhm.
right? And I look at them back now and I cringe, right? But look at the latest set of backstage comments we've done.
Yeah.
Our guys now are accomplished talkers as well,
Yeah.
because they're just getting the reps in doing that, and they now find themselves in that position where they can talk people into the buildings,
Yeah.
and these are all just, I don't know. I just feel like these are all just elements which are often missing, and I
Mhm.
think that we've done a lot to focus on that growth. And again, it's nothing against any other scene in
Of
the
course not.
world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've just got so much pride in our talent and the level of ability that they have. And I think that, if anything, that level is overlooked very often.
Mhm.
People don't expect it. I think
Yeah.
people think about, people are blown away when they see the level of
Yeah.
talent that we have for the very first time. And I think that, I think people always think about, oh, it's going to be it's a local indie. We're just going to have, we're going to see some promising guys, and they're not going to realize how kind of polished our talent is, and what they're capable of doing. So I think that to me is the main thing.
Mhm.
Look, from my, we only see, in terms of, well, I guess one of the things, one of the big differences as well is, obviously, the UK is so small.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you will see people from, you can see people who literally are from the other end of the country on any one of our shows, wherever it is in the country, because it's very, is the distance from one side of England to the other is probably the distance from one side of a state to another in
Yeah.
America, right? So we have that benefit of, seeing those, having regular rosters from people all over the country. Whereas I feel like in America, there's a lot of more, so we say, regional
Yeah.
independence,
Hmm.
and the levels on them are very high. And you've got some. There's so many guys on a lot of the regional independents who are a very, very high level, but because they're not in one of the national independents. So you look at, like, for example, a GCW, you might look at as a, that's almost like a national
Hmm.
independent. But then there's regional independents who still, they have that same kind of, almost like that regular storytelling with their regular core roster, but their guys don't get the opportunity to be seen by the people, to shout about them as much.
Hmm.
So I think that's also a big difference as well. And I think there's a lot of people just waiting for the opportunity, and then when you see them for the first time, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
And they really stand out, and they're just waiting for an opportunity. So yeah, I think that's probably a big difference as well.
Of course. No, I love it. Like I said, I've been hooked. I love Rev Pro. I love what we're seeing. I keep finding new wrestlers. Like it's Cameron Kai, I was just talking to the other day because I loved his match with Bendy. I was like, can I just tell you how good this match was and how good you did? And he was like, thank you. Like, I appreciate, like, I love it that I found all these talented that, maybe haven't even tapped into like what's going to happen within them within the next 5 years. Like, I can't even imagine like what's going to happen. Leon Cage, like him, Mexico, like how awesome is this? Like, I'm hyped. I'm hyped. I'm totally hyped. So, all right, let me give love in the chat. I'm sorry, I'm not ignoring you guys. Like, there's a lot going on. So let's see. Shaw says seeing some of the best professional wrestlers in the world for like 30 quad is the best bargain. Asparaska says the Gilbert Butcher is a great young talent. I hope he makes it to Rev Pro debut at Wembley in the Gauntlet. So here we go. I'm gonna post up the Gauntlet photographic for you guys too. We got that going on. Let's see. Kylie says I need Leon Cage versus Ricochet. That's another good one. Zach Minger says good morning, Tiffany and Andy. It's National Ice Cream Pie Day. Did you know that's National Ice Cream?
I'm not going to lie. I don't even know what an ice cream pie is. I think that it would probably be very difficult to have an ice cream pie by a pie's very nature of being very hot and ice cream's nature of being very cold.
Well, you
Or
can
is it
have
ice
it's a
cream
cold
and
pie.
pie?
That's just what it is. It's a cold pie.
But then surely the pastry is frozen, is it not?
Well,
I
I
don't.
guess like the ice cream would be frozen, but there is cold pies.
Yeah, this
He's like these crazy, people out here.
happy ice cream and pie day.
All right, let's see. Matt says one of the greatest matches I've ever watched will be Oku versus Osprey for the British Heavyweight Championship and Will's final Rev Pro match. Phoebe says it's been great to see the introduction of people like Kaylee Ray, Holly Barlow, Corey Zero. Holly Barlow, is there anything specific you look for when bringing in new talent into Rev Pro? That's a great question.
Before we get there, can I just actually just go back a little bit?
Go for it.
Yeah, I love the way you said it's so great being able to see all these world-class wrestlers for 30 quad. So it's
very New York, right? Right?
So yeah. Well, in England, it's quid. It's a quid.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Well, you said I'm here to educate the people. So hopefully we can get the Americans into the lingo.
Yes. Correct me.
So yeah. But so what am I looking for when I bring in new talent? Honestly, there's so many different things, and there's so many different ways that you can kind of come into Revolution Pro Wrestling. So obviously you can come through our training schools. We've got the London School of Wrestling, the Portsmouth School of Wrestling. That's a long route, and then but obviously from people who start from scratch, and we look at people, Cameron Kai came through our Portsmouth School of Wrestling. JJ Gale came through our Portsmouth School of Wrestling. Will Caven came through the Portsmouth School of Wrestling. And countless others. But like in terms of who are plying their trade right now on our shows. And then from there, the route is obviously you can take Contenders Division. So where basically you grow before our very eyes. So at the moment, we've got Isaac Murray, Elvin Narayan, and Chicago Desai. They're kind of our current crop of contenders, and they're kind of growing before our very eyes. Or you can take the tact of someone like a Will Caven, who he didn't go through the contenders division because he already knew who he was and what he represented, etc. So he wanted to wait for that moment to make an impact, rather than start with the black trunks, etc. So that's kind of the kind of in-house way of looking for talent. And obviously, I see talent, like again, like Cameron Kai, we knew he's one of the most naturally gifted young wrestlers we've ever seen. And I think he debuted after about 6 months, at a very, very high level, which is almost unheard of. So that's one aspect. Now another aspect. So I watch wrestling all the time, right? So if something stands out to me, grabs my attention, it'll be that. You know, there's other things like, so for example, people who come to help out, attitudes, is a big thing, right? And I use this as the biggest example that I can possibly give you. So Mike Loku made his Revolution Pro Wrestling debut in, I believe, 2018, right? So at the time, Mike Loku was just he was Curtis Chapman's friend, the late great mad Curtis Chapman. And Curtis Chapman, anyone who knew Kurt, great character, and he'd always say to me, he'd be like, "Can you book my friend Mike? Can you book my friend Mike? He's very good at wrestling. Please, can you book him? Can you just give him a go? You'll really like him, right?" And just incessantly, just went on at me. And that's not the way to. If anything, that was probably one of the ways not to get booked.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
However, Mike Loku turned up to help us with a ring crew, and you know what? I did really like him because he had a great attitude, right? Just a very, very good attitude. And I said to him, like, I've got a spot on the show. It's a tiny spot. It was essentially a sub 5 minute match with the Great O'Khan as a part of a Great O'Khan's winning streak in Revolution Pro Wrestling. And, it's yours if you want it, to make the most of the opportunity that's put in front of you. And he may have been in the ring for 3 minutes, right? And he made every second of those 3 minutes count. And he didn't do anything. Like, he didn't do it, like, his offense. I don't think there was any. There might have been a drop kick. I don't know, right? But he came. He had presence. He had timing. He showed out. He took a beating like a champ, and he kept getting back up. And at the end of it, I was like, he showed me enough in that time. He made his minutes count. He wasn't selfish. He listened to instruction and executed what I wanted exactly, despite the fact it wasn't designed to highlight him.
Mm-hmm.
And with that attitude, I knew he was someone I wanted on my team. So from that point, he got opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and he hit it out the park every single time. And that was all due to being in the right place at the right time with the right attitude, right? And it's so that's like another huge way of doing it. And by that, I don't mean turning up to Wembley. There's a big, in fact, anyone watching this who thinks they're going to turn up to Wembley, if you're not on the list, you're not coming in. Don't. But yeah, there's a big difference between turning up to a big show. You find when we've got the Mercedes Monets on, or the big the big names, the MJFs and people like that on the show, all of a sudden we've got loads of helpers, right? But I'm more interested in the people who come to a rainy day in Sheffield.
Yeah.
If we did a show in Stoke, it would be a good thing. It's a British thing, but yeah, that's what I'm more interested in. The people who are and then consistently there, wanting to help, wanting to make stuff happen, and displaying common sense, because it's very possible as well. You could come to help, and if you have no common sense, you could really upset me and absolutely damage your chances of making it onto a show, as some people have done over the years. But that's obviously one way. Another way, obviously, just again making a name for yourself outside. So there's always going to be something that I notice. It might be it might be just a sick music video, right?
Yeah.
But it might be the way you conduct yourself on social media. It may be just a promo that I see. It may be a move that I've seen you do, and I'm like, oh, that move looks cool. Let me now go to that person's social
Yeah.
media and see what I can find out about them, right? It might be a groundswell of support for a wrestler from the fan base,
Mhm.
right? But again, it's not one of those whereby you know, because like I learned a long time ago, there's no point in me tweeting who do you want to see in Rev Pro,
Yeah.
because everyone just tweets their
Everybody.
mates,
Yeah.
right? And like, but the reality is, if you come in and you're not ready, you get found out, and it's a hindrance, not a help, right? Because we want people to come in and be noticed, right? And obviously recommendations from peers as well.
Mhm.
So like, you know, so for example, Franco Fate, he debuted for us last week in Southampton, and he's someone who just so many people had said, you know, give him a look. You know, he's very good. But also there was the added part about he actually was one of the people who helped us out at the anniversary show last year,
Mhm.
and I remember it because like he's got, not saying he's got a name on the independent scene in the UK, but he's one of the more recognisable people who comes from a House of Pain wrestling academy, which is run by a great wrestler called Styx, or a former, you know, retired wrestler now called Styx, who I go back many years with. And he's you know, he's one of Styx's top boys, and Styx also trained Kanji, and Styx wouldn't kind of put someone over unless he, you know, unless he really fully endorsed them,
Yeah.
right? And so you know, and he was there helping out last year, and like, so I just knew he had a good attitude, because like, you know, he's a top guy in that promotion, yet he had no qualms with picking up a camera and filming stuff,
Mhm.
or setting the ring up, or setting out merchandise, or whatever have you, just any way he could help to be a part of the show. And that's the kind of mentality that I love. But he had that coupled with the support of his peers, and he came in and he absolutely smashed it out of the park, and we'll be seeing more of him in Rev Pro. So obviously support appears, groundswell of support from the people. You know, we see it, we hear it, and of course, if we see it and hear it, and then look at the stuff, and it can back itself up, then we'll bring them in. So there's always an open door policy. We always go with an open mind to everything and everyone. But again, the key is being able to back it up. And there's sometimes I see people be world beaters outside of Rev Pro, and then come in and not hit the ball out the park,
Mhm.
because of a lot of reasons, which is, it's not, you know, we can psychoanalyze all of this stuff, but
Mhm.
you know, a lot of people I bring into Rev Pro because of who they are, but then they look at Rev Pro and they think, they have a preconception about what Rev Pro is in terms of, you know, just the highest level of pro wrestling, and they make the mistake in thinking, um, you know, we need to try and do something different to what brought us to the dance, you know,
Mhm.
and it's what brought them to the dance, which is why they're there in the first place. So, you know, like I say, many different reasons, and the success rate also depends on how they fare when they first come in.
Mhm. Love that. Love that. Love that. So take notes, guys. All right, let me see into the chat. The chat went like hot. I know I'm not going to get to everybody. So one Breezy was in here. He said, hello, he'll see you at the show. Sad Axe is in the chat. Who was Andy's favorite wrestler when he was a lad?
Bret the Hitman Hart,
Yes.
yeah, just a fantastic professional wrestler, and it was just real when Bret Hart wrestled, and like Bret, he was like one of the first wrestlers to make me feel as a professional
Mhm.
wrestler. I think that's what wrestling's all about. It's about feeling,
Mhm.
and obviously there's a lot of Shawn Michaels kids around as well, but I was always a Bret Hart guy. But I always said that Bret Hart's matches will stand the test of time a lot more than Shawn Michaels will, which is, again, it's not nothing against Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels, absolutely world class professional wrestler, creates some fantastic moments, and but like obviously a lot of what Sean did was built around, you know, athleticism, which is, you know, and we've been getting all these kind of freak athletes coming in, who kind of defy all odds, and you know, of physics as well,
Mhm.
about what's humanly possible for a human to do. Um, Whereas Bret Hart's was all about, you know, the story of the match, and I feel like if you watch back, so again, if you like, the example I always give is WrestleMania 10, the best match
Oh,
on the
oh
night
God, my
was
favorite. It's my favorite.
right. So the best match on the night, or the match which was most talked about, was the ladder match,
Yep.
right, with
Mm-hmm.
Shawn and Razor.
Yep.
But the best match when you look back on it now was Brett versus Owen,
Yeah.
because it stood the test of time. And we've seen all the crazy, and it's because we're desensitized. If we'd never seen a ladder match since then, we'd look back at that ladder match with the same kind of fondness. But people are continuing to push the boundaries of what's physically possible,
Yeah.
and sometimes they push those boundaries too far. Um, but like when you talk about pound for pound professional wrestling, that stuff, it doesn't go old. It's evergreen, and
Yeah.
that's what Brett versus Owen is, and so many of Brett's great
I
moments.
love that. I love it was like same era here pretty much, but oh my god! All right, so wait, I got a fan tweet from you for Graps on Film. Ash, I was in his I was in his chat, and he asked me to ask you, what's your favorite Rev Pro Graps on Film moment?
Um, I tell you what, I don't like. It was probably when he created the money for Mercedes Monet.
Mhm.
So this is an example of someone who gets up and makes stuff happen. Um, and and he just had an idea for a shoot he wanted to do with Mercedes, and I was like, well, at this time I'd never met Mercedes,
Mhm.
right? I'd only spoken to her people, and I was confident that she would love us when she got here because we are fundamentally lovely people, right? And we all share in a passion of professional wrestling. But you never know what's going to turn up. You never know what to expect, right?
Yeah.
So and Mercedes is a star on this huge level. And I basically said to him, and I'd said to kind of Mercedes people, look, I know you like to get videography of everything you do.
Yeah.
I've got this great guy. Sent them some of his stuff, and obviously he'd done some stuff with Kanji in the lead up to it as well, which was just fantastic. And I feel like a very underappreciated part of what started Kanji's journey towards what I believe will be superstardom.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he created these Mercedes Monet banknotes by hand. I'm not sure. Maybe he got someone to. I think we got someone to design them, but he then found a printer to print them out on big sheets of paper. And the night before the show, he was in a hotel cutting out the banknotes for that shoot.
Mhm.
And then obviously he got the shot he needed at the show, and it was super great, and it looked great, and it was a real nice moment.
Yeah.
And that's an example of someone who he's just got a vision, a passion for professional wrestling, and he went all out to make a moment happen,
Mhm.
because there's so often, again, like I say, it's people with drive. I want people who are going to push themselves, and people with common sense, right? I could have just said to him, yeah, and look, I understand it benefits him getting that footage, but
Right.
like I could have said to him, yeah, you've got access, and he turns up with no ideas, and he turns up with he's just like, I've got a camera, I'm going to film something, right? But he got the idea, he knew what he wanted to do, he had that vision, and then I guess as a result, Mercedes knew that he's someone that she can trust, and he's someone that she wants to make content with, right?
Yeah.
So like, but he did all this without even knowing if she was going to be cool with it, you know? And obviously she was, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
But he had that common sense and that drive. And, and I look at, someone else who I don't want to give a shout out to as well, Robbie Parker, who does many of our video packages that we do. So many of these ideas he comes up with himself, or I can give him a seed of an idea and he can go and run with it, right? And I feel like, especially given the nature of what RevPro is, essentially me just trying to, like we say, spin lots of plates. What I need around me is people who I can give an idea to, and then they go and make it happen, right? I don't have time to be, holding people's hands and walking them through. This is what we have to do, blah blah blah. I like to be able to give the vision and then trust that someone's then going to be able to carry it out. Otherwise, I feel like if I spend all my time explaining, I might as well do it myself,
Yeah.
which is why, because I know it's going to be done right, and which is why I do wind up doing so many jobs myself. But that's, but again, for anyone who's wanting to get into wrestling, who's not going to be a wrestler, I
Yeah.
think that is a great example for you of what you can do. Be proactive, have ideas, don't come with problems, come with
Love
solutions,
that.
right? And also have a solution to a problem that doesn't even exist yet. And then that, and be able to be adaptable, think on your feet, these are the types of things that we need to be doing,
Yeah.
and that's the type of thing that Graps on Film does. And yeah, and that's just one of the moments that jumps out to me, that he's created so much great content.
Everybody's important in the wrestling scene. Like there's so much. That's why like I try to give love to everywhere that I can, get to. Everybody's important. Commentators, promoters, ring announce, everybody, videographers, cameramen. Like I try so hard
I
to
think
put
I
over
think you've just
everybody.
named every single one of my jobs there, have you not? I don't know.
You're here finally, and you're here. So I saw like another question into the chat. Actually, this one's good. Shaw says Rev Pro's first steel cage match when?
Well, look, so I'll tell you a few interesting things, right? So number one, I've actually promoted a steel cage match before. It was under the IPW banner, and it was Martin Stone versus Danny Garnell, and it was a great story which was told to get there, and it was a great match, which told the story perfectly. So I'm very, very proud of kind of that moment in my booking and promoting career. So that's what I promoted, organised, etc. So another thing is I actually do have I own a steel cage which is at the Portsmouth School of Wrestling, but we're actually looking to offload it. Unfortunately, it's for a 16-foot ring, but we operate in 20-foot rings now. We've never used it, so so that's something. But then also, I feel like unless you can lower one down from the ceiling, like
It's a
when we did
lot.
when I promoted the cage match before, we had to essentially evacuate the building whilst we built the cage, and then the people were allowed to come back in. So essentially we had to have two, and because it was a main event, we essentially had to have two intermissions. And it's just not really something that, on top of all the
That's a
stuff
lot.
that we do to ourselves, it's not really something I want to do. And again, and I'm sure it's fine to do, but again, there's a lot of we are very high on our paperwork, health and safety stuff, and risk assessments and method statements and all of this stuff. And I it's just for the moment, it's almost biting off it's it's biting off a lot. And on top of that, the sight lines for the live audience aren't great. The sight lines for the people watching at home aren't great either. Um, I think as well, and again, this is just my opinion, right? But I'm very desensitized to steel cage matches.
Okay.
So when I was younger, a couple of things to this, right? So when I was younger, a steel cage match meant something, and like I know a lot of people older than myself hate the escape the cage rule, right? But I like the escape the cage rule as well, because invariably you've got a heel who wants to do everything he can to stay away from the babyface, and you've got the babyface who wants to get some revenge on the heel, right? But the heel's going to try and run
Right.
and eventually get the comeuppance, right? So I think you can tell some fantastic stories with the escape the cage, and I think a cage should be a weapon, right? I remember the day back in the day, someone would run someone's head into the cage, and it's a huge deal. Now we have a steel cage match, and the steel cage is secondary because the cage is filled with weapons, and it's just like, what's even the point in the cage in the first place? In addition, I feel like the cage used to be a draw. So I remember when the FWA Academy, so the FWA Academy used to draw notoriously terrible crowds, right? And again, it was just a training school promotion, but they wouldn't draw crowds at all. And then they got a steel cage, and they did like essentially super shows with the cage. So the main event of the shows was a cage match, and the poster went out, steel cage main event. And they did great business with every cage match show they did, because people weren't used to seeing cage matches. But now, just even like, so you've got now the aspect of, you see it a lot in American TV, and you see the cage. The cage used to be the draw, right? But now the cage isn't the draw. Even like the Hell in a Cell isn't the draw. And the cage used to be to keep other people from coming in to the ring as well. So it's almost like they've lost just in my opinion, again, they've just lost the art of the cage match, right? So it doesn't get me excited like a cage match used to, right? It doesn't serve its purpose like it used to. But also now you see a cage in MMA all the time.
Yeah.
At every local leisure centre up and down the country. So to be able to promote a cage match now isn't even necessarily the draw that it once was. So with all those factors in mind, it's probably going to be a long time before you
Okay.
see a cage match in Revolution Pro Wrestling. And
That's
I'm sorry if
okay.
I'm sorry if that disappoints, but that's just
It's okay. Hey,
that's
listen. Everybody likes their stuff, right? It's just like in the sense of like me liking one wrestler and maybe another fan doesn't like that wrestler, so that's okay. Everybody's entitled to like however they feel. So that's cool. That's cool. I'm here for it. What did we talk? How did we not talk about my boys, CPF? And Will came in and Thew and Lacey. Like, how did we not talk about this match coming up? Because obviously I'm a CPF girly. I should have worn my shirt. I bedazzled. I'm a Joe Lando and Danny Black girly. So dummy. I like that I didn't wear that. So talk to us a little bit about that match too.
So to me, look, CPF, Cave and True and Lacey, they've been some of the unsung heroes of Rev Pro shows over the last 18, 20, like 24 months, where like however long we've kind of been featuring them really. And I think that it's going to be a great introduction to the to like so like particularly so look, a lot of people know all about Joe Lando because he's a wrestler that that was on AJ Styles' lips. He's a former cruiserweight champion with us. He's been in big match environments. He's had big matches all over the place. Big match Joe, right? But Danny Black and Maverick Mayhew are every bit as good as Joe Lando, and of course, the part of CPF law is that it was originally a quartet, and we're bringing the band back together because, of course, the fourth member of CPF is Callum Newman. So it's a great opportunity to showcase those guys. But again, I can't reiterate enough, especially Taven, True, Lacey. Maverick Mayhew when he's around is fantastic, but we've not seen anywhere near enough of Maverick Mayhew in Revolution Pro Wrestling as I would have liked to. But yeah, Danny Black and Joe Lando, they've been real. I genuinely like the spine of Revolution Pro Wrestling. I could call them, right, and always ready to steal the show at a moment's notice. You never see a match of theirs on paper and you think, oh, that's not going to be a good match. You see matches of theirs on paper and you're like, oh shit, I need to see that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that this is no different. And this is the way the show's going to start with this 8-man tag team match. RKJ's joined the Cave and True and Lacey party. And RKJ, of course, is the youngest undisputed British heavyweight champion that we've had. Just a firecracker of a professional wrestler, one of the fastest men in professional wrestling. And I'm very interested to see how he matches up with the speed of Callum Newman, because he's also one of the fastest men in professional wrestling. So it's a very intriguing way to start the show, and it's going to be a real firework display. And hopefully it's going to be a sign of intent of what's to come across the rest of the show. But I couldn't think of a more fitting way to open the show. And listen, True and Lacey, they've had a little bit of glory in terms of they're in the Pro Wrestling Noah Junior Tag League with a great show in there. I genuinely think that Cave and True and Lacey are like three of the people to watch in the next year in Rev Pro. So yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be exciting. And like I say, like I think the biggest compliment I can give you is I was like, this needs to be the match to open the show. This needs to be the match that starts a pay-per-view.
Oh, love it. I love it. What else did we talk about? So I'm going to flash on the stream what I got going on. So we got Zack Sabre Jr., Jay Joshua. We talked about this. I'm so excited for this match. This is me match. Zack Sabre Jr. has been one of my favorites for years. And I finally got to talk to him a couple of months ago in person after even him coming to New York and like the old Ring of Honors, like when before AEW, I used to see him. But for all these years, it was like the first time that I actually got to have a conversation with him. And like, I'm so insanely stoked for this match. Really looking forward to that. We talked about Luke Jacobs and Pac a little bit. We talked about Cowboy Way versus FTR. This is going to be freaking amazing. It's so cool. Also, like, I get Cowboy Way here in the States all the time. And I was so ecstatic when they won the tag team titles, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna get it here.
Yeah, and look, and Well, look, I think that with Cowboy Way, I think they're a good example of, we were talking about independent stars in the US. They now don't necessarily get the platform or platformed the way they would have done before, because
Right.
obviously you essentially before, if you got into a Ring of Honor, then boom, that's it,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like Cowboy Way haven't had that same platforming. And again, I think it's only really over the last few months you've seen a lot more of them in like your GCWs of the world, in your produce, like,
Hmm.
and I think that as a result, I think that they were almost some of America's best kept secrets.
Yeah.
And I first started using one called Manders when WXW in Germany were like, Andy, you need to use this guy.
Yeah.
You need to take a look at him. Just take a look at him. I promise that you're going to love him. And we brought him in for a shot, and he smashed it out the park. And just stylistically the type of wrestler that I love to see. And then Manders is like, hey, I've got a big cowboy friend as well. He's very much like me. We complement each other very well. And then boom, the Cowboy Way and Rev Pro were kind of born.
So
And
good.
yeah, they complement each other very, very well. And I hope that it draws more worldwide attention to their names,
Yeah.
because you look at a team like that, and I could see them going out and competing in the World Tag League in New Japan Pro Wrestling, for example. They'll fit into any tag team division in the world very well. And they can be world beaters on any given day. And I think that them against FTR is going to be a very interesting clash. It could be a very different clash to the clash we'd have seen between FTR and the Young Guns,
Hmm.
but equally as intriguing. And it's going to be a fight between four big old boys, and I think we're going to see some real textbook examples of tag team professional wrestling. Because in my mind, tag team wrestling, when it's done right, there's not a better form of professional wrestling.
Right.
And I think you can't, when you think about FTR, they personify what tag team wrestling is all about.
Yeah.
And I look, they're going to be divisive in terms of, because anytime you start talking about best in the world, best of all time territory, it becomes divisive, especially when you go to WWE and you go from WWE to AEW, that tribalism is gonna kick in and all that. But look at FTR's body of work, and just a fantastic, fantastic tag team. So yeah, I just can't wait for the
Oh.
match, and I can't wait to. It's one of those ones where you just know the atmosphere in Wembley Arena on that day is going to be something else.
Like you need to charge more for like the streaming service for this again pay per view the show, because like God, like so like even us in the state, I think I paid like about $9 in American dollars here for the monthly service, and it's like God, the stuff that we're getting weekly, weekly shows, sometimes more than one on the weekend, and like we're getting this, and this is insane. Like these matches, like if you guys aren't excited the way that I'm excited, like I don't know what you're doing. Like, but let's see what else. So we talked about Michael Oku, Connor Williams, Leon Slater, and Liam Slater. It was so funny because me and one of my friends, we were talking. They're like, "There's a lot of Slaters, like, and there's a lot of like Leons and Liams."
But that's crazy though, because Liam and Leon, obviously they're not related,
Yes.
but that's their real life
Yeah.
surnames. It's not an act or
Mhm.
anything. And Leon Slater is the star student of the Slater Dojo.
Right.
Well, I guess it's the PPW school
Mhm.
in Sheffield. Was it Sheffield? I don't know where they are, up north somewhere.
Okay.
But obviously Leon's from Bradford, um, and yeah, and this is as real as it gets. Leon is the star, has always been the star student, and Liam has always been the brain behind the tactics, the moves, the everything that Leon does, and that's why it's just so. Uh, again, the best pro wrestling is rooted in reality, and up and down this card is rooted in reality. Every single story which is in on this card is rooted in reality, and that's why this show's so special, and that's why the stories we've been telling have been so special. And I can't wait to see it all come to a head. But yeah, but again, lots of people just assume that it's just an act. The Liam and Leon Slater
Yeah.
thing is just an act, right? But that's not. That is real life.
I love that. I'm excited for this match. We didn't talk about Leighton Buzzard and Nino Bryan. So I mean, Leighton Buzzard's coming on the podcast next week, guys. So I know he's gonna yell at me because I was really mad when he beat my boy Joe. And I think the funniest clip was I actually videoed it like from my couch on the TV, and then I started giving the finger to Leighton, and you see like Joe crawling on the floor, and then Leighton said he told me to cry about it. So we're gonna have this out on Monday, finally, because we're just gonna have it out. Like, I don't care. I'm from New York. I'll fight him. I ain't scared of him.
There's a lot of sea between you, so I think that's good news for him, right?
It's good. I'll fight him. Okay, I'm 5'5". I don't care. Like, let's go. That's that New York way. That's just that New York way. But anyway, this is another good match. Talk to us a little bit about this one too.
Yeah, so look, I think for my money, Nino Bryant is probably pound for pound the best wrestler in Revolution Pro Wrestling right now, right? And that's a very bold statement, right? And there are flashier wrestlers than him. There are wrestlers that get more headlines than him, that get more column inches than him. But Nino Bryant is a wrestler that can do absolutely everything. And if you look at some of the matches that he's had over the last year, just absolutely phenomenal. And we've seen different styles, like we saw in his program with Shah Samuels. We've seen instant classics like with Joe Lando, like with Leon Cage, with Cameron Kai. We've seen him being endorsed by a legend, Jushin Thunder Liger, when he defeated Robbie X at last year's anniversary show. We've seen literally children surrounding him after he won the British J Cup, just being drawn to the ring like he was a magnet,
Yeah.
and believing in Nino Bryant and what he stands for. And he's just a good guy, And Leighton Buzzard, in terms of personality, is a polar opposite to Nino Bryant, and that's where the best rivalries come from, when you have those polar opposite moments. And I feel that Leighton Buzzard, again, I think Leighton Buzzard is probably the most underrated wrestler in Revolution Pro Wrestling. He's very much a complete package. He's got the look, he's got the talking ability, he's got the in-ring smarts, he's got the move set. He is a fantastic professional wrestler. I'm sure he will tell you that himself firsthand. But again, this is another one of those. I'm just, like I say, like, I'm just so proud of this year. Often, and he's like, Leighton Buzzard has tried to make a point of saying, like, oh, in the previous anniversary shows, there's been scramble matches for the Cruiserweight Championship, and now there's relevance because I'm holding that championship. But look, Nino defended it in a singles match last year. And Nino, I think, did a lot to elevate that undisputed British Cruiserweight Championship belt. But Leighton Buzzard feels that it's all about him. And look, there's a lot of story going into this one with Nino Bryant and Leighton Buzzard as well. And again, like I say, the depth. When I talk about the depth, it's also the depth in each division and the stories which are being told throughout each division. And that's why I'm just so. Again, I can't keep using the word proud, but proud is the best way to kind of describe it, because I look back at all the work we've put into growing the cruiserweight division. And again, when I look at the divisions, it's almost like I feel like the tag team division, we need to get a bit more steam back in that. But again, it's because of just obviously unfortunate circumstances, really. But like, we've got the Great British Tag League coming up again, and that's obviously going to breathe some fresh life back into the tag team division as well. Get some contenders for whoever wins that British Tag Team Championship match between FTR and the Cowboy Way. So that's going to be an exciting time in Rev Pro. And as well, like, I feel like the cruiserweight division is one that needed love, but I think we've got so many great cruiserweights now. But I think one of the difficulties with the cruiserweight division is our cruiserweights are always teetering on that line between cruiserweight and heavyweight.
Hmm.
So then, you have a cruiserweight champion, and then like, so if you look at the heavyweight division, and look at the people who've held the cruiserweight championship. So Michael Oku, former cruiserweight champion, Luke Jacobs, former cruiserweight champion, Connor Mills, former cruiserweight champion, Leon Slater, former cruiserweight champion. So you look at that cruiserweight championship, and so many people almost moved up a weight after holding that championship gold. So that's why that division kind of needs to keep replenishing itself, again and again and again. But with Joe Lando, and sorry, with Nino Bryant
Yeah.
and Leighton Buzzard, I feel like you can see an example of two people who could be, the forefront of this cruiserweight division for a very, very long time to come. And that's exciting because it puts a target on their back as well.
Hmm.
And when you've got something to aim for, and you've got the cruiserweight championship being, and that's again another thing I've taken pride in, is all the championships at one point or another this year have headlined our events.
Hmm.
And I think when you've got championships which on any given night can headline any single event that we run, it tells you you're doing something right, but also it means that there's something that for people specifically to aim for, because people know they can get focused, they know they can get highlighted. You've got cruiserweights who feel like they don't have to move up to heavyweight to get that main event spotlight, that main event focus. And I think that that's very, very important as well, and that's something that all of our championships have been able to do over the course of the last year.
Yeah. I love that. Oh, so exciting. Let's see, what else did I miss? We talked a little bit about Alexis Falcon and Kanji. This God. I'm so excited. So exciting. Like I'm mad I'm not gonna be there. Again, everybody figures out how I can teleport. Let me know. This match is so good. And then we have the gauntlet. Oh man, like, are we gonna expect any surprises? Like,
Yeah, I think. Look, I think I've never had like so many people are messaging me wanting to be on this show from around the wrestling world, because they know how important this show is, and they know how special this show is going to be, and they can feel it. There's something in the air, right? And everyone wants to be a part of it. I'm sure there will be some surprises that you can look forward to, but it's not a surprise if you say expect a surprise. So maybe the surprise will be there aren't any surprises. Who knows?
that's
But
too
all
good.
but look, the reality of the situation is there's already just an array of talent in that scramble match. We're talking about Leon Cage, David Francisco, TK Cooper, JJ Gale, Cameron Kai. Um, Even Isaac Murray is in the scramble match after winning that contenders freeway a couple of weeks ago in Southampton. And it's going to be a huge opportunity for him. But like, I think one of the most interesting and exciting things about that match and the gauntlet nature of it is that it's one fall to a finish. So even though people are scheduled to be in the match, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to make it into the match,
Okay.
because it's going to be, like I say, one fall to a finish. And because of its very nature of being one fall to a finish, people can't afford to take their time. People can't afford to work a slow pace. They've got to push the pace. They can't afford to be defensive. They've got to be offensive or
Right.
offensive, because they have to try and win a professional wrestling match. Because the longer the contest goes, the less it's going to favour them, because the more bodies are going to be in the ring. So, like I say, it's an intriguing match. At one point, we did have a thought process of, shall we make some eliminations by going over the top rope? We decided against it because we don't want to restrict anyone. We like people flying through the sky. So it's yeah. So it's just going to be one fall to a finish. That's where you win the match. And yeah, once you're in it till the end. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a very interesting and exciting match, and that there's lots of people who, again, it's interesting because you could look at it and people will be like, oh, they disappointed about being in a multi-person match. But
Hmm.
again, I just look at it as it's an opportunity for everyone. It's an opportunity. Make the most of your minutes. Look at all the great wrestlers you're surrounded by, and let's see what's going to happen. I think it could be a show stealer.
Oh, hyped. All right, let's see. I'm sorry, like, about the chat. So let's see. Sad says, will Callum Newman be wearing the jumpsuit? Oh,
That's
question.
that sounds like that sounds like it's a question for close personal friends,
Yeah.
really. Unfortunately, I'm not in their circle as much as I'd like to be in the close personal friends circle. But what I will say though is last year CPF teamed up with Blue Panther, and Blue Panther was in a jumpsuit.
Yeah.
So
I guess you got to tweet at them. Let's see. Shasta just wanted to say how great of a person Andy is. Got to speak to him live in London 108 at my second show, and I was honored that he gave me his time. Even spoke about me on my wrap up after.
yeah, so well, look, I know exactly who you are,
Yeah.
and yeah, because it was again, like again, I always say, when we talk about Revolution Pro Wrestling being one fan at a time, we
Mhm.
genuinely mean it. And he's someone who actually got into Revolution Pro Wrestling via Joe Lando's TikTok of all
Yeah,
things,
he said
right?
that in the chat
Um,
too.
so yeah, so that opened my eyes. I was like, we should be doing this TikTok more.
Yes.
I don't really know what a TikTok is, but we're on TikTok now, and we'll be experimenting. And I'm going to join TikTok shortly as well. I've got lots of ideas. I've
Oh.
actually been vlogging, like like I've kind of given up before I've even started, but I've vlogged quite a lot
Just go
over the last
live.
couple of months.
Just like
And yeah,
get
well,
an intern.
this
Just
is.
carry, follow you around
It's,
and just live
it's,
stream.
yeah, so I think we're going to experiment with some stuff, but it's probably something for post anniversary now, rather than in this next week. So I've kind of already got a lot on. But yeah, like I say, we one fan at a time, and everyone's support honestly is so genuinely appreciated. And it doesn't matter if we don't have to agree on everything,
Yeah.
right?
No, no,
Because
no.
and I think that's, it's almost like people think like, oh, unless we all are singing off the same hymn sheet, there's going to be a clash. But no, like, we're all humans. We all like different things.
Yeah.
And I think, being when we talk about our opinions about stuff, we have to remember they are opinions.
Mhm.
They are just opinions. And also, if we're going to criticize something, we need to be constructive with that rather than just knocking stuff down, right? And I think that, again, like I've had times before when I've spoken, I've kind of tried to address some, sometimes negativity. I tried to address
Yeah.
it, and then it becomes, "Why are you being so defensive?" And it's like, no, I'm not trying to be defensive. I just want to have a discussion, because
Yeah.
like the way I grew up was like, we're open minded to everything, and we have discussions, and we have opinions, and you and I can have different
Hmm.
opinions, and it doesn't matter, because fundamentally we're human
Yeah.
beings, bottom line. And I like to say, with wrestling, the one thing, and again, this I say it without tribalism all the time, with wrestling, the one thing that we've got in common is we all geek out to this thing that probably, what, 90% of the population think is stupid, right?
Yeah.
Wrestling's a niche, right? I'm sorry to break your hearts if you think it's not. But wrestling is a niche, and what we're doing in Revolution Pro Wrestling is a niche of a niche,
Hmm.
right? So I'm so thankful to anyone that gives us the time of day, to anyone who wants to, who feels our product is worthy enough of forming an opinion on, right? It's a privilege. It genuinely is a privilege. And and again, anyone who spends their money on our product, anyone who comes to our shows, always feel free to come and say hello to me. Always feel free to come and have a conversation with me. I will always try and make time for you, because genuinely we couldn't do this without you, and I'm so appreciative of it. And I don't want anyone to ever, think differently, because I appreciate each and every single person. I appreciate everyone listening to this. I appreciate, all the comments, and it just blows my mind to think someone would take their time out of their day to listen to me ramble on about pro wrestling, to then spend money to then leave their houses to come and watch my little spread that I put on. So it's so fantastic. And I genuinely, I just love it. And again, that's what I got into this for in the first place. There was so much wrestling which was subpar. It was almost like cosplay WWF. It was a cheap imitation. Like when you go and watch like tribute bands, and they're terrible. It was very much like that. There was not a lot of thought process went into it. The word production didn't exist. You'd go to a show, and you'd see a match, and they'd hype up the big return. Next time we're back, it's going to be me and you in a street fight. You come back next time, completely different set of wrestlers. They wouldn't remember the street fight, whatever. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create something which could be consistent, something you could take your friends to and not be ashamed of, and something that you can come to and just become a fan for life. And the fact that people spend their time on all this stuff, of course I'm going to listen to you, of
Yeah.
course I'm going to want to converse with you, and because I just appreciate it so much. And really, above all else, I'm so passionate about this, And that's why, and I enjoy it. I enjoy
Yeah.
it so much, and I enjoy conversing about it. I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy hearing the opinions. So it's not work for me. It really isn't. And sometimes it's a thankless job, but
Yeah.
like, but when stuff comes off, if I could just do the parts of it I enjoyed, which is the talking to fans, which is the being at live events, which is seeing your vision come to life before your very eyes. If I could just do those bits and be paid to do that, that'd be a hell of a journey for me. But unfortunately, I have to do all the other bits and pieces that
Yeah.
come along with it as well. But it's a small trade off though to kind of get that end picture, that end result.
Of course. Oh man, that's like my wrestling with positivity. Like I was gonna ask you about like hashtag wrestling positivity, which is very dear to my heart. But like you kind of just like went into it pretty much, and like I love that. And it's like that is like I feel honored that you're on this podcast chatting with me. Just the girl from New York, who's like listening, who's watching Rev Pro from here and like supporting such an amazing product that you have. And you just talking, and people are in the chat and they're writing. They're like, oh, I can listen to Andy all day. He's genius, like his passion for wrestling and everything like that. So again, like I can't thank you enough, for everything that you do for us. So, but I've been keeping you on here for so long. I know you got so much stuff to go, and I know there's still like stuff into the chat, But like like I said, I'm going to start like wrapping up pretty much, so like you can get also upon your day as well, so to make something beautiful for us with the next week or whatever. So tell the fans, like tickets obviously still available. How much? Where can they buy? Where can they watch? All that fun stuff.
It's really embarrassing because I don't actually know the price of tickets. But it's about £30. I'd say the get-in price is about £30 for our show at Wembley. And revolutionprowrestling.com is a place to be to kind of get your tickets. Obviously, with all premium events, it's a premium event. It's a premium ticket price. I feel like sometimes I have to justify that to people, especially when you're watching Rev Pro for the first time, because I think you might look at it and go, oh, it's just another indie show, or it's just another wrestling show. This is far from just another wrestling show. So it's a real life Wembley Arena. The cost of the production bill alone is oh man, I can't even tell you, like, it's so expensive, right? So I guess the point I want to kind of get across is we have overheads like we've never had before with this professional wrestling show. We try to make it as accessible and affordable as possible to everyone. So we always make sure we've got an entry point ticket which is of reasonable value. But obviously more premium seats, which are more expensive. Some people like to look at the most expensive seat and run with that headline of, oh my God, I can't believe Rev Pro are charging this amount of money, which is always ironic because those most expensive seats are always the seats that sell out first. So, but there is a good get-in price. Now, again, I want to kind of obviously say, like, a lot of people feel like as you get closer to the event, we should be discounting tickets. Not something we do because for us at our level, right, it's so important that we keep our relationship with our fans strong. And do we have space to, like, we can look at it now and be like, there's space in the building. We can afford to discount tickets, right, to try and just get some more people through the doors. But I just don't think that's fair to the people who went out on day one and purchased tickets. I want to reward their faith. And also because we're very much a brand that, like I say, this is all about, if it was a hit and run, if this was just one show and then we're done, then maybe that's a strategy we could do, right? But the reality is we need people to know that whatever we do next year, whatever the next big event is, we need people to know that you're going to get the best value by buying on day one. And a big part of the game plan, a big part of the strategy is we need people to purchase tickets on day one, because that's what gives us the confidence to then, keep going, push stuff out. There's huge overheads from the second you sign the contract, essentially. So, in order to keep going and in order to make stuff happen, we need people to show the faith in the product. So yeah, but again, I would say if you were to look at the prices that WWE charged when they were in Wembley Arena to the prices that we charge, night and day,
Yeah.
you probably get a family of 10 into Wembley for
one
the price
ticket.
of one WWE ticket, right? And that'd be a big family. That'd be like the Hart family, wouldn't it? So um, so yeah.
I
But
love that.
we try so hard to just like I say, make it as affordable as possible, and in a way that we can kind of qualify and say, if we get this amount of money, we should this amount of tickets through the door, we should be okay,
Yeah.
right? Bastard maths, I like to call it. Um, so so yeah, and so revolutionprowrestling.com for tickets. Please, please, please buy now. We
Yeah.
need it. We need people to buy now. I don't. Again, like if you're planning on coming, I'm going to buy your ticket anyway. Just buy the ticket now. It helped me out a lot. Like I say, I'd love to be at this weekend and say we've broken the attendance record, guys.
Oh, that would be
Let's keep
amazing.
going, right? Rather than having to do it on the day,
Yeah.
right? Um, so we're marching towards it, but we need people to get their tickets. And if you can't be there live, the next best thing, there was two ways to watch it. So one is RevPro on demand, which is just great value. We've got an app. So RevProOnDemand.com, I just advise being the place to go to. Because that will give you can sign up there, and I think it's the best price there. I don't know if it's a little bit more expensive on the apps, but once you sign up via the website, and we get the most money from the website subscriptions as well, which is why you should definitely sign up, revproondemand.com. But once you sign up via the website, you can access that account on any of the different devices, much like a Netflix account,
Yeah.
right? And we have apps on iOS, Android, Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Android TV, and Apple TV. So again, it's one of those things that every year we've added more apps to at great expense, because we mean it when we say every penny that we make, we reinvest in this product, because I just believe in it so much and no one else is willing to invest in it. So
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. We're putting our money where our mouth is, and we're reinvesting in it. And that's why you see the production improve. That's why you see the amount of apps that we have improve. That's why you see the quantity of shows we're running increase. And we're just going about this on a day by day basis, just growing, evolving. And RedProOnDemand.com is just it's a huge part of that. You know, it's a foundation of everything we do, because every month starts with that subscription, and it's cancel any time as well. So
Love
no
it.
commitments at all. To give it a go, you can see our entire archive.
Time.
If you
My
don't
God.
like it, then just literally unsubscribe. No problem. We won't hound you if you unsubscribe. We're not going to hound you and say, please subscribe again. What's wrong with us? Don't you love us anymore? Just pick up the subscription when you want to again. That's all we ask. And I will say as well, look, if anyone's watching, because again, especially when we do these big shows, they get pirated like big style, right? Just if anyone's watching, look, I'm not asking you to go after people who pirate the show, because again, some people, it might be their way to open the door to Rev Pro. It might be, we've got to be real about this. Someone might see it for the first time and say, that is worthy of my support, right? And then they might go and subscribe as a result of that. But if you see people asking for, has anyone seen this stream? Anyone got it? Just point them to the official channels.
Yeah.
Don't kill them for it. Literally, just because I see this as well, and I don't want people to resist. Like, people think we're a big corporate, and we're obviously not. But but yeah, just point them to the correct channels and say,
There you
please,
go.
just watch it this way. Don't be snide about it, under the table, like, check your DMs, whatever. Just point them to the right direction.
There
And
you
if you
go.
like what you see, if you watch it, if you pirate it, watch it illegally, don't boast about it, because there's nothing worse than boasting about it. You wouldn't walk in. I remember when I was little, it used to be an advert. You used to get your WWF VHS, and it's like, you wouldn't steal some clothes, you wouldn't steal food,
Yeah.
so don't pirate this movie, right? You're not going to go walk into your local supermarket and steal a loaf of bread and then go on Twitter and boast about having stolen a loaf of bread, are you? So please have some decorum. If you're going to do it, just, do you know what I mean? Just keep quiet about it, and just say to people, I watched this great Rev Pro show on Rev Pro on demand. You guys should as well. At least do your bit a little bit, and then I can look at it as paid marketing rather than you just nicking from me, right? But yeah, please, spread the word. RevProOnDemand.com.
There you
It's
go.
a great place to watch it if you can't be there. And obviously, again, just to reiterate, it's the same weekend as All In Weekend, and Wembley. So if you're in town, I can't emphasize this enough. From the door of Wembley Arena, you can see Wembley Stadium. It's literally a 2-minute walk away, right? If you're in town, if you're staying anywhere nearby Wembley Stadium, you're also staying nearby Wembley Arena. If you're going to any of the AEW autograph signings during that day, instead of going home afterwards, you're going to walk past Wembley Arena to get to the train station. So pop in, see the show. And I promise you, we are going to absolutely deliver you for you, because this is, again, we can look at it and say, it's not going to be as big as Wembley Stadium. But for us, it is.
Yeah.
For every single person in the ring, it's as big as Wembley Stadium, you know, and again, you know, even so, you look at the people we're bringing in. So you look at like a Pac, you look at a Zack Sabre Jr. And Revolution Pro Wrestling and British Pro Wrestling means a lot to Pac and to Zack,
Yeah.
right? And that's why that's so important. And you look at FTR, and you know how FTR, they, for them, they see this is like legacy building stuff, right? They want to be a part of the biggest show in Revolution Pro Wrestling history. They want to have the best tag team matches all around the world against a diversity of different teams. And this is just another opportunity for them to add to their legacy. This is just another opportunity to them once again to say, we are the greatest tag team of all time, with their chests out and mean it. You know, every single person involved in the show, from every single level, be it from the ring crew to the production team, you know, the commentators, the referees, you know, every single person is so committed and so looking forward to this night. And again, like I say, it was looming in the distance for so long, but now it's staring at us right in the face. It's the next stop, and we can finally stop talking about the road to Wembley, because we will be there August 29th. And I just genuinely hope that it doesn't matter if you're at home or you're there in person, but I hope you can experience it and be there with us. And if you're watching at home, give us feedback, give us instant feedback, tell the people what you're watching, and hopefully we're going to make some new fans on August 29th, and those new fans are going to become fans for life, and then they'll tell their friends, who will then tell their friends, and before you know it, who knows how far we can take this. And that's what I keep saying, who knows how far we can take this. I have no expectation. I'm absolutely privileged for every day I get to do this, and I think that, you know, like I say, next Saturday is just it's an important bookmark in this journey.
Love that. Everything's in the links below in the description for you guys. They made it easy. Make sure you sub and everything like that. Is there anything that you want to get across that we didn't talk about on this podcast for everybody?
No, I've talked a lot. If there was any questions, if there's any more questions, I'm happy to rattle off some quick answers. But if there's not, then I'm happy to go off in the sunset.
Let me see. Phoebe says, Andy, why did David Francisco never get his rematch for his British heavyweight title?
You'll have to ask him that. There's very few people who can talk as much as me, but David Francisco is one of them. Potentially in the future, maybe he could. He should think about how he conducts himself a little bit more. But you know, that's sour grapes maybe. But yeah, you'll have to ask David Francisco that. But you know, he's very much in with a shout. And if he wins a gauntlet August 29th, then he's undeniable, isn't he?
I love that. Den asks, what's the greatest match you ever witnessed in person?
Oh, what a question.
That's a cop-out question.
So I was at the Tokyo Dome for Omega and Tanahashi, and that was pretty special. But genuinely, I think probably a Rev Pro match, and then there's been many of them. I think Michael Oku and Will Ospreay is definitely right up there with them. I think Zazaya and Leon Slater, the Iron Man match, just phenomenal. And I think it's one of the most underrated matches of all time. And I kind of blame Dave Meltzer for that as well. So I'm putting Dave Meltzer on blast, because Dave Meltzer talked a big talk in the lead up to that match, saying how bold it was, me having the faith to put them in there for an hour, and saying it was going to be feast or famine. And all I'll say to you is the people of York Hall ate very, very well on that night. It was a fantastic professional wrestling match. And then there was a lot of people as well in the lead up to that show as well who were saying, I'm not feeling an Iron Man match. I don't think we can. And I knew I believed in those guys. And they absolutely delivered and more. And then Dave Meltzer never watched it, never rated it, should have got 5 stars for the records, because it was just what an effort between those two young professional wrestlers. And obviously, WWE have got Cesaro now. I don't think they understand what they have in their hands, because that guy is an absolute world beater. They should have figured it out by now. He should be all over TV by now. They've got something special there. A special talent. And you talk about, and again, it probably feels like I'm overhyping the young lads, but I've never seen someone make a connection with the people as instantly as he did. And he was able, and again, look, the first night in, it was easy for him. Again, you can sink or swim in that environment, but he was main event in Barcelona, Spain, against Michael Oku, our British heavyweight champion, right? However, he was able to translate that feeling. He was able to connect with the people in England. And that's why he had such a special bond with all the fans in the UK. And I'm telling you now, if WWE are serious about their business in Europe, serious about their business in Spain, he's a guy they should be building around. He's so young. He's got amateur credentials. He's a great pro. He's got the right attitude, and they've got him.
Yeah.
And if he was wrestling for a TNA or an AEW right now, right, WWE would be chomping at the bit to get this kid signed up. But they have him. They don't even know how good their shiny new toy is that they have in front of them. So that was also a great overlooked, underrated pro match that I was lucky enough to witness live.
Love that. Love that. Okay, I'm gonna grab this last one, and then I'm going to say goodbye. Shah says, "Who has Andy learned from the most in wrestling?" That's a good one.
Oh wow,
Food for thought.
it's a very good one. Yeah, because I've learned because I feel like because I don't feel like you learn from just one person. I feel like you learn from multiple people. When I first started booking, one of he's a divisive person maybe, but like when I first started booking, one of my big inspirations was Jim Cornette. I feel that his philosophies on professional wrestling. I just really got that mindset, and I think that he's still, again, like I feel like he still makes a lot of good points. And like I feel like he's a lot of the time he's you say controversial things, and that's what gets the clicks, that's what gets the listeners and whatever. But I think that if you listen to what he has to say, um, amongst the headline grabbing bits, I think you can get some real good tidbits of information from him. So I think he's a great person to get kind of feedback from. And sometimes you'll listen to stuff that he says about, well, why wouldn't you do it this way? And you're like, should have done it that way. But I don't agree with everything he says. Again, that's the beauty of it. That's why wrestling's subjective. That's wrestling's an art. Art is subjective, right? So he would be one person. I do a lot of reading, so like I learn a lot of the history. Look, I think Dave Meltzer is just a fantastic historian when it comes to pro wrestling, and a lot of his history articles, I love to read them. So like over the last couple of weeks, he's been doing the obituary for Dory Funk Jr. Just fascinating, and it's when Dave's at his best, I believe. And like I don't think like people should get caught up in, again, he's doing his stuff, the star ratings and all that. That gets the headlines, but I think the historical pieces are kind of the most interesting pieces. Autobiographies from wrestlers have taught me a lot as well. Um, Again, like I learn a lot from outside of wrestling as well, because I think it's so important to not be inside a bubble, right? So any sports promoter I can get a autobiography of. So like I got like Barry Hearn, Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, people like that, great boxing promoters, just great lessons to be learnt there. Anytime any promoter like there's people like there's other promoters, like Ben Shalom in the UK, but from Boxer, he's like a newer promoter. But like people like that, people like their philosophies on stuff like that. Obviously, great like business minds. Like there's a great book, Shoe Dog, by Phil Knight, the guy who created Nike. I think you call it Nike in America.
Mhm.
But that's like a fantastic book, and it teaches you so much about business. And I think what I found so interesting about that was, he a lot of the trainers that he got from Japan. He
Right.
imported them from Japan, and there was also almost that parallel, that link that I could find with my relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling, doing business with another culture. And I found that fascinating and interesting. So I learned so much from outside the world of pro wrestling as well. And I think and like I said, I can't stress enough how important that is. Business podcasts, business audio books, that I can just listen when I'm on the go, so yeah, there's so many different people can claim credit, and again, some of the biggest lessons that I took were like just in car journeys, with just some of the just hearing people's opinions. And a big thing is, the same way that fans dissect pro wrestling,
Mhm.
I like to dissect pro wrestling with whoever's in the van on the way back from a show with me, right? We will run through the show, and I will give my opinion on the show. They will give their opinion on the show, and we will kind of feedback. You're constantly learning whoever you're with. And yeah, so again, it's not really answered the question, but it's kind of given you lots of different
No,
answers
it's
to the
great.
question. Um, and yeah, we never stop learning. We always keep trying to evolve, always keep trying to move forward, and always look for different ways of thinking. And I think that that's one of the most important things as well, because you can look at, I always use this last point, I promise, but I
You're
always use
fine.
this as an analogy.
You're fine.
So when UFC became big, what UFC did was it took elements from boxing and it took elements from pro wrestling, right? And it took the elements that they felt worked in those two genres. It added their own twist onto it as well, and they created this global phenomenon in the UFC.
Mhm.
And I think you can take so many different lessons from that, and listen to the Fatitas and Dana White. And then obviously you got like historians of MMA like Ariel Helwani, who know the backstory, who know the history, and you can take so much from those people as well. So yeah, you just never stop learning, and I always say you can relate everything to pro wrestling. I love my soap operas in the UK as well.
Yeah.
I love episodic dramas on Netflix, right? You can always take from all these different genres and not be closed-minded enough. And that's why it blew my mind when WWE are on Netflix and they're doing everything but cater to the Netflix audience.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. Blows my mind as someone who's a connoisseur of both professional wrestling and the Netflix. And I feel like WWE are just so wide of the mark like it's just honestly, look, you can't. It's very hard to sit here and knock an industry leader who's just got a license to print money at this stage, right? And don't get me wrong. Look, WWE have given me so many great moments in my
Mhm.
childhood, and when WWE goes on that big stage, they're untouchable in terms of the seamless presentation, right? But they're on the Netflix, and they've got this should be the new boom period for professional wrestling, and it's not, because they're not catering to the
Mhm.
Netflix audience. They're catering to the audience that they already had, right? And it's about finding that balance, right? And not shutting your mind off to new ideas. But anyway, look, that's another story for another day.
Your
Um,
mind, it's amazing. Like again, this has been amazing chat, and just to see like where your mind's at, it's amazing. Like I can't thank you enough for being on here and chat. And of course, like you are welcome to come on here whenever you want. And again, guys, I'm gonna flash all the graphics on the screen on the video podcast for you guys. Make sure you're subscribed, buy your tickets, go to the show, support Rev Pro, support Andy. Like again, I can't thank you enough for taking your time out of your day and like chatting with me very, very much. So All the links are in the description below. So, anything else?
That's all I've got. I'm shutting up now, but thank you very much for humouring me, and
No,
yeah,
it's great. I
I
love it.
genuinely appreciate it, and thanks everyone
Of
for listening.
course.
And like I say, I can't say how humbled I am by the support that we get, and again, even to be speaking to yourself, who's in America
Yeah.
right now, right, and you think that this came from little community centres, little social clubs in the UK, and now look at us. So
Yeah. Look at us
and I
go.
think that even hearing your accent, it's a sign
It's very,
of kind of
it's
how
very
far we've
thick.
come.
It's very
So,
thick. The New York accent that I got. So, guys, so we'll make the announcement here tomorrow. I am interviewing Alpha Zoe from West Coast Pro. And Thursday, Michael Oku is coming on, so we're gonna chat with him. And then on Monday, we're chatting with Leighton Buzzard. I'll try not to be that mean to him. Anything you want me to particularly ask Michael Oku and Leighton Buzzard when they're on this pod?
no, I don't want you to put any words into their mouths. But I do think like just again, I'm interested in from their perspective. You know, how they feel to be a part of the show in Wembley, and also just kind of you know their perspective on, because like they've both been around for a while now, just their perspective on the talent pool that we have right now. Because I say, like from my perspective, for someone who's putting the matches together, and I feel like it's as deep as it's ever been. But I'd love to hear the perspective of the performers themselves, because I feel like like it's just crazy, because they've got to have their working boots on every single night, because it's just crazy, the level of talent right now. So I'd be interested to hear how they feel about that, and the kind of their position in that as well, and then just kind of how far they've come on their personal journeys
Yeah.
also, because I think that's very important as well. And I think you can look back at both wrestlers' debuts in Revolution Pro Wrestling, very different debuts. Leighton Buzzard was actually thrown in the deep end against Will Ospreay,
Mhm.
and Michael Oku's again thrown in the deep end. The first TV tapings for Revolution Pro Wrestling, which was against the Great O'Khan. Yeah, that's kind of interesting hearing about their journey.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to chat with them. And if you guys are new to my channel, thank you so much. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. I've had Joe Lando, I've had Danny Black, I had Cameron Kai, I had JJ Gale. Like it's been an amazing jersey, and I hope to continue bringing on a whole bunch of people from RevPro in the future as well. So, but thank you again for coming onto this podcast. Thanks to everybody who tuned on in. So, with that being said, stay safe, support independent wrestling, and I'll talk to you guys soon. You guys have a good night.
Feeling miserable.